where in our open and welcoming community, we live our message of hope, love, justice, and joy. We extend a special welcome to our visitors this morning. We're really happy that you've joined us, and we'd love to get to know more about you after the service. If you haven't already stopped by that newcomer table, please do so that we can add you to our e-list and let you know about all the many different events we have going on here at UU Princeton. Many of those are in happenings in the back of your order of service, and we'd like to highlight a few. The first is that this is the first Sunday of Advent, and all are invited to stay after worship for a program titled In the Stillness, an Advent Practice. The wonderful Pauline Nijander and I will lead the program, which will introduce this holy season, as well as a meditation manual that we put together. It's based on the wisdom of the modern Christian mystic Howard Thurman. That's after worship today in Foz Theater from 12 to 12:45. We also invite our children, youth, and their families to RSVP by tomorrow, Monday, December 2nd, to take part in the Hanging of the Green skit, which is titled The Latka Who Couldn't Stop Screaming, adapted from the book by Lemony Snicket. We especially encourage children and youth to join us in this jolly annual tradition. But don't worry, you don't have to memorize any lines, and we'll also have a few non-speaking roles available. Being part of the cast that performs on December 15th also means attending a script run-through after worship next Sunday, December 8th. So families, please check Fridays this week in Children and Youth Ministry email for the link to sign up for that. We are indeed getting close to our annual holiday party and Hanging of the Greens weekend. The All Ages Holiday Party is on Saturday, December 14th from 5 to 8 p.m. Bring your friends, and you can sign up online or sign up in a table right out there in Robinson Lounge so that we can prepare properly. And Hanging of the Greens is on Sunday the 15th during the worship hour. And if you have evergreen branches that you can donate that we can use to decorate Channing, please leave them in the grass outside the lower level doors between now and the 13th. Also, helpers are needed on Saturday the 14th from 3:30 to 5 to set up for the next day's Hanging of the Greens. You can help set up and then just stay for that party that starts at 5. And I've been told that if you help set up for Hanging of the Greens, you'll be treated to a special golden medieval milk punch and or virgin or spiked wassail punch. So show up for that. And lastly, a note about today's service. We had intended this service to be a celebration of Margie Herman and the nearly 2 decades of shared ministry that she has offered our congregation in her role as music director. Margie is retiring at the end of the month, and we want to appreciate and celebrate her. However, Margie took a very bad fall earlier in the week and needed to stay home and keep recovering this morning. She is indeed recovering and has plans to be back at it sometime this week, but this turned out to not be the right Sunday to celebrate her. So we will do that on another Sunday. Please keep an eye on your email for the new date. It is of now unknown, but it will be known soon. And thank you to those of you who contributed to the Goodbye and Thank You Fund. Those gifts are sitting safely in our account, and we'll include them as well as some other honors when we thank Margie in worship a little later in the year. Until then, send her your emails and your cards and your best wishes. She's always grateful to receive those. That does mean that this service is different than what we had planned, though, in theme and liturgy. So just follow along with what's in your order, and all will be well. And now at this sacred hour, grateful for each and welcoming all, let us be together for a time of peace and balance in a space of community and acceptance to remember the good and seek the true and look together toward the love that holds all. Come, let us worship together.
For our human community, our common past and future hope, our oneness transcending all separation, our capacity to work for peace and justice in the midst of hostility and oppression, we give thanks this day. Reverend O. Eugene Pickett.
And let us join together in the spirit of prayer. This prayer was written by Howard Thurman. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Teach me how to order my days, that with sure touch I may say the right word at the right time and in the right way, lest I betray the spirit of peace. Let me not be deceived by my own insecurity and weakness, which would make me hurt another as I try desperately to help myself. Keep watch with me, Holy One, over the days of my life, that with abiding enthusiasm I may be in such possession of myself, that each day I may offer to thee the full, unhampered use of me in all my parts, as an instrument of thy peace. And here in this shared silence, we offer these, the prayers and meditations of our minds and hearts. May the light of love be with all those who celebrate and all those who grieve this day and every day. Amen.
Good morning. Morning. I'm one of many people struggling with how to keep a positive attitude during these dark days. November 5th was a sad day, and the news each day has only increased my foreboding about the future of our country. I know many of you canvassed and wrote postcards and donated money and worked hard in the past election. I helped organize phone banks, and for weeks that was my second job. And I'll admit, I felt pretty devastated after November 5th. I'm one of a multitude of battle-weary veterans who are in deep mourning. Since then, I've taken my news in small doses, and I've tried to get back to the things I neglected during those weeks before the election. I take long walks when I can, I meditate, I read books that are light and frothy, and I try to count my blessings. And there are many. I am grateful for my husband, Scythe, and my grown-up kids, Ray and Will, and my extended family. I am grateful to have a good job, a beautiful home, and wonderful friends. And I am grateful to have found my community here at UUCP. I'm thankful I was part of that effort. I don't regret investing the time and energy, even though we didn't get the result we wanted. I'm proud that we fought as hard as we could, and the work was deeply meaningful to me. I felt inspired every day seeing all the people who volunteered, parents and young people, college students, couples and seniors, some people among you. I'm looking at you, Elizabeth. When we were lucky, we had real conversations with voters. One young woman burst into tears after spending several minutes hearing the story of an old man who was disabled. Another woman shared the story with a voter of her child who struggled in school due to his learning disabilities. And we also got to know each other. By the end, the regulars and I greeted each other with hugs. One of the volunteers shared photos of her new grandchild with me. Another regular took a selfie with me because she had told her family about me and wanted to send them a photo. Those connections lifted me up and reminded me of what I find here at UUCP, where I'm always among like-minded people who believe in positive change. This congregation has been my refuge. I found comfort here at the election vespers, on the Sunday after the election, and at every meeting since then. I don't know what will happen over the next 4 years, but I know it will require us to step up. Maybe that will mean providing more support to immigrants, or lobbying to protect the environment, or protesting to protect our reproductive freedom. It will no doubt meaning all those things and more. If you're like me, that prospect feels exhausting. But as I think about the spirit of community I found among those volunteers, and that I always find here at UUCP, I can't help believing that all that positive energy will find a direction. We are taking a moment to rest, and when we're ready, we will find a way to shine a light against the impending darkness.
Some spend the days between Thanksgiving and Christmas shopping, decorating, and preparing for the big day, while trying desperately to avoid one ever-present Christmas song, Little Drummer Boy. It's a game, a challenge really, called the LDB Challenge. And the idea is to go as far as one can into the season without hearing Little Drummer Boy on the radio or in a store or a holiday concert or anywhere. If you're on social media and you see the message hashtag LDB, I'm out, it means your friend heard the song and didn't want to. And don't worry, I won't sing it now so that if you're still in, you'll still be in. But that song is waiting for you. You're going to hear it and you'll be out as well. I've seen a variation of this challenge with Wham's song Last Christmas, also quite ubiquitous this season, even though the only thing Christmas about that pop song is that poor George Michael, may he rest in peace, had his heart broken in the season of joy. It's a sad breakup song. He gave his love his heart, but it was then given away, and so George is going to give his heart anew to someone special this Christmas. It joins the movie Die Hard in a timeless debate about whether something is a holiday something or not, as Die Hard happens during the holidays, but is not really about the holidays unless one thinks it is. I've even seen the challenge extended to Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas, a song that I can't fathom anyone ever not wanting to hear. It's delightful. I'm neutral on Little Drummer Boy. I like George Michael and Wham and that song, but it's not a Christmas song. And I remember liking Die Hard, but it's been decades and I've never sat down and watched it again, so I guess I didn't like it that much. But All I Want for Christmas, yes, that is perfect holiday fare for me. And once the clock strikes midnight on Thanksgiving night, I'm here for it. I want to be out of that challenge as soon as possible. Another holiday classic that I eagerly wait for is the movie A Christmas Story with its famous refrain, "You'll shoot your eye out." That's what the main character, a young boy named Ralphie, first hears from his mother when he tells her that he'd like to have a BB gun for Christmas. He imagines using it to ward off robbers who want to pillage his home and to more generally become a sort of cowboy star of the Western frontier, even in his very suburban, very 1950s neighborhood. Adolescent Ralphie seems to envision the BB gun being a ticket to adulthood, where he protects hearth and home from marauders intent on destruction. And yet when he shares his Christmas wish with his mom, she says, "Oh no, you'll shoot your eye out." That response, "You'll shoot your eye out," becomes a devilish sing-song refrain in Ralphie's mind, audible only to him whenever he thinks of the box that will not be unwrapped on Christmas morning, the one containing the gun. "You'll shoot your eye out" torments poor Ralphie throughout the whole movie until at the end, when wouldn't you know it, unbeknownst to Mom, Dad has arranged for that very BB gun to be under the tree. Mom just sort of smiles lovingly when she finds out that Dad has so brazenly ignored her advice. My mom would not have met that moment with a serene smile. But it's a happy holiday film after all, so Ralphie unwraps the gun and ecstatically takes it out into the yard to shoot a target when he instead shoots his eye out, or he would have if his glasses hadn't saved his eye. The shot ricochets off the target and breaks his glasses. He makes up a story about something else cracking the lens. His mom never finds out the truth. My mom would have found out the truth. And we are left to assume that Ralphie shoots another day. The movie is a funny holiday tale with a happy ending that delivers what we want during the holidays: a sweet story, an adorable child, loving, quirky parents, and our deepest wishes coming true. But there's another story also appropriate for this time of year, one that involves less sweetness and speaks more to the difficulties that are also a part of life's journey. The story involves a boy who was born in great wealth and privilege. His parents not only provided for his every want, but steadfastly shielded him from the larger world and its poverty and suffering. He was raised in such a way as to not know that life was difficult for many, for most around them. Nonetheless, as he ages, he is eventually exposed to the suffering of the world. He eventually sees it in the streets beyond his palace walls. And he responds at first with shock by denying himself every pleasure and joy in life. He aligns himself with the suffering of the world by creating a life in which he was bound to suffer greatly himself by his own choice and to a large degree. This extreme deprivation does not lead to growth or the good, though. It just confuses him and makes him more miserable. He's on a spiritual journey, but a life of excess and a life of extreme want both seem to lead him in circles. And while the ancient story has different versions of what happens next, in general, in this state of confusion, he decides to sit under a tree and meditate for 3 days and see what happens. He was trained in meditation, and so he turned to what he knew to make sense of life. For 3 days, he meditated under a tree, just waiting. And then he arose, awakened, and enlightened. The legends say that when he arose, he looked different. His skin glowed and his eyes were shining. He claimed to have found freedom and said that this freedom is rooted in being unattached to both the suffering and the joy that encompasses life. Both are inevitable, but freedom can be found in not allowing either extreme to rule one's life. That doesn't mean that suffering doesn't hurt and shape someone. It doesn't mean that joy and happiness are to be shunned. It does mean that the experiences of life are complex and rich, that joy and sadness are deeply intertwined, and that freedom is found in not being firmly yoked to one or the other. Freedom is found in the middle way of integration without attachment. It's found in neither the faux joy of a life completely sheltered from sadness or the chosen suffering of a life where happiness is shunned, but in balance and harmony and moderation. After this seeker emerged from his meditative state with these new understandings, he began sharing them and developed a following. He would become known as the Buddha, and eventually a new religion would form around 4 basic truths drawn from that mystic meditation session: that suffering is rooted in desire, that detachment from desire lessens suffering, and that freedom can be found in 8 ways of living that stress peace and harmony and balance. This religion would stress moderation and dialogue, and in the model of its founder would proclaim that regular meditation is the practice that can bring about enlightenment or a sense of being more awake. That practice would become the most important element of the faith. Just as there is no Unitarian Universalism without service, there is no Buddhism without meditation. The day that the eventual Buddha emerged from his meditative state awakened became known as Bodhi Day, named after the tree under which he meditated, and the day is traditionally celebrated on December 8th, a week from now. So December brings us Christmas and Hanukkah and solstice and Kwanzaa and Bodhi Day, the day the founder of Buddhism through meditation unlocked the key to that entire system of thought and being. And with it, we are reminded of stillness, of waiting, of the suffering that lies beneath joy, and of the joy that awaits suffering's recession. This is the season of joy, and yet we know that this season of happy movies and touching commercials and family reunions and widespread merriment can also heighten the sorrows that weigh heavily on our souls. People we love are not with us. Some who are sick. Relationships that built and sustained us have ended. We hold grudges toward some that no amount of peace can unlock. Sometimes the promise of our carols sound hollow in lives that bear sorrow in greater measure than joy. We are unrested as peace is proclaimed, and sad when joy is exalted. And the moments of melancholy that rise up in every authentic life feel out of touch with celebrations that only make room for the joy that we wish filled every moment of this season, but doesn't. We love those who are gone, and there's little room for this. And so for some, sadness turns to despair, and we feel alone. We move from the insistent joy of the season into a private sorrow of quiet sadness, from one extreme to another, like the one whose eventual awakening to happiness came not through radical change, but moderation. And with this, we know that we need not turn fully from the joy of the season to turn a little more to the sadness, to our own and everyone else's, so that none of us are alone. A phone call to let someone know that we're thinking of them does this. A text, maybe, an email, a card in the mail is pastoral ministry. It connects, it cares. A coffee date with someone going through something, or for whom this season bears an anniversary of going through something. We need not reach out in new or momentous ways to show that we care. A simple word or two will do. An expression of love will ease the loneliness of someone else, and that care will linger like a single lighted candle in a darkened room, gradually lighting more and more of that tender space. As a congregation and a faith, this assurance that we are not alone through the melancholy moments of a joyful season means that we embrace our pastoral ministry within, among, and beyond one another. It means that we become that holy presence of care, acceptance, and concern in each other's lives. Our most visible ministry is often the same kind of active faith in the area of outreach, and this season and every season does call us to extend our care and outreach. but it also calls us to do the same pastorally with one another in active and loving ways. It calls us to extend ourselves in being a simple presence who will make room for sadness and joy. It calls us to be good neighbors who will make room for a fuller range of human expressions with one another and the stranger. Merry and depressed, joyful and sad, excited and hesitant, creative and stuck and tired and energetic. We are all of these things and more, an undefinable collection of contradictions and inconsistency, far more layered than the glossy songs and stories of this season. And we are meant to be there for each other in all of these moments, to listen, to laugh, to make space for tenderness and loss, and to sometimes just be still and quiet and let our individual gifts of presence work their graceful magic with neighbor and stranger. In these moments, we become agents of grace as we remind each other again that in all of our humanity, we are not alone. Paul Tillich, the great modern theologian, reminded us of this when he wrote, "Grace strikes us when, year after year, the longed-for perfection of life does not appear, when the old compulsions reign within us as they have for decades, when despair destroys all joy and courage. Sometimes it is at that moment a wave of light breaks into the darkness, and it is as though a voice were saying, 'You are accepted. You are accepted, accepted by that which you do not know. Do not ask for the name now, perhaps you will find it later. Do not try and do anything now. Do not perform anything. Do not intend anything. Simply accept the fact that you are accepted.' If that happens to us, we experience grace. And when we accept each other in the fullness of our humanity, we are agents of that grace that Tillich writes about. He's talking about the grace coming from God, and for some it does, but it also comes from one another. We are those agents of grace and goodness in each other's lives, and we are capable of bringing incredible quantities of it to life, not in any single tremendous act, but through daily expressions of kindness and patience and peace and love. This month is one of darkness holding the earth until the light grows again. It's about an oppressed people lighting a holy flame that burns much longer than it should have. It's about a culture attacked by centuries of racism expressing pride and resilience. And it's about God loving you and me and everyone so much that God's child is sent to walk among us and lead us to peace and compassion. All of these stories are of grace and love. They're all of communities forming and coming together in reverence and service and storytelling. They all lead us to wonder in one another. They all remind us of how we are graced not only with our lives, but with each other's lives. And it is good to be joyful and grateful and generous, to look upon the season and its merriment with the wonder of a child with full and loving hearts. December encourages us all to be more youthful than we might otherwise be, to sing loudly carols that we love and love to hate, to watch the Grinch learn that he can't really steal Christmas and see his little stony heart grow and grow and grow. In reverence, we light candles, not to chase away the darkness that holds us in peace, but to embrace the light that warms us and lengthens our days and helps things grow. We light candles to balance the dark and the light, for that is where the beauty is. It's in the balance, in neither extreme, but in the middle where the two meet. Just as the Buddha found wisdom not in obscene wealth or obscene want, but in the way of moderation, so too can we be present to the joy and the sadness that grow in a fuller spirit this season. We can serve in a fuller way. We can be there for more people, bringing more comfort and more joy. And we need not even meditate for 3 days to do it. I love a good tree and I meditate all the time, but I, like you, have a life that disallows 3 days of meditation. And so perhaps the path for us is more about doing a little bit every day, a little breathing, a little sitting, a little time spent in peace and centering, so that we live more balanced and intentional lives, so that we are a bit more mindful, aware not only of the songs that we comically try and fail to avoid, but also of how much we can sing one another with peace and acceptance, of how much grace we can bring to one another, of how much we can cause a song of joy, even in hearts tender with loss, a song built through connection and care, and a presence that assures everyone that no one is alone. We light those candles of connection in one another's lives. That's our holy work this season and every season. It's our challenge to be the ones in someone's life who brings the goodness and grace and peace and tenderness to the happy and sad moments. May we light those candles of care with love and warmth, bringing both of those sacred qualities to a world desperately in need of their grace, a grace given to us solely so that we can give it away. May it be so, and amen. Go forth grateful for the moments before you, the breath within you, the people among you, and the Spirit guiding you toward lives of love and kindness. And go forth knowing that you are held always and always with everyone else by that great love of no beginning and never ending. Go in peace and amen.